This is the requirement most inspection bodies do not know exists yet, and it is the one I would start on first. Clause 7.5 is entirely new in the 2026 edition, and it says the system you use to handle inspection data shall be validated, not backed up, not password protected, validated. In this video, I will show you exactly what that means, what the standard excuses you from, and how to produce validation evidence without turning it into a software engineering project. One quick thing before we start, and then I will leave you alone about it. Everything I am about to walk you through, we have already built for you. There is the full ISO IEC 17020 2026 edition documentation kit, 3 separate checklists, one for implementation, one for your internal audit, and one for the accreditation audit itself, and a complete online training course if you want to go deeper than a video can take you. All the links are in the description below this video. Right? Now let's get into it. Let's read it exactly as written, because the scope of this clause is wider than people assume. Clause 7.5.1. The inspection body system used for the collection, processing, recording, reporting, storage, or retrieval of data relevant to inspection activities shall be validated. 6 verbs: collection, processing, recording, reporting, storage, retrieval. If a system does any one of those things with inspection data, it is in scope. That includes your inspection management platform, obviously, but it also includes the tablet app your inspectors fill in on site, the spreadsheet that calculates a result, the template that generates your inspection report, and the database where it all ends up. And there is no equivalent clause in the 2012 edition. This is genuinely new, which means you almost certainly have no existing evidence for it. Now, the note that saves you an enormous amount of work, and its 2 conditions. Commercial off-the-shelf software in general, used within its designed application range, can be considered sufficiently validated. 2 conditions, and you need both. In general use, meaning widely used software, not a niche tool from a supplier with 3 customers. And within its designed application range, meaning you are using it for what it was built to do. So a mainstream word processor producing a document is covered. A mainstream spreadsheet application as an application is covered. But the moment you build something on top of it, a workbook with formulas that calculate an inspection result, a macro that generates a report, a template with embedded logic that is no longer off-the-shelf software in its designed application range. That is your system, and it needs validating. This is where nearly every inspection body actually sits, and where the work is. The second sentence of 7.5.1 is where the ongoing obligation sits, and it is stricter than the first. Whenever there are any changes, including inspection body software configuration or modifications to commercial off-the-shelf software, they shall be authorized, documented, and validated before implementation. 3 verbs, and then 2 words that matter more than all of them. Before implementation. Authorized means someone with defined authority approved the change. Documented means you have a record of what changed, why, by whom, and when. Validated means you proved it still produces correct results. And notice that configuration counts as a change. Adding a field to your inspection form, changing a calculation, altering a report template, changing a user permission that affects data. Those are changes. Most bodies have a system that has been quietly modified for years, with no record at all. That gap is what an assessor will find. Clause 7.5.2 covers the data itself, with 3 requirements. A. Technical data and inspection records shall be safeguarded against unauthorized access, tampering, and loss. 3 distinct threats, and they need 3 distinct answers. Access control, integrity control, and backup. B. Maintained in a manner that ensures the integrity and security of the data and information. And C, and this is the one nobody has, they shall include information on system failures and the appropriate immediate and corrective actions. Read C carefully. Your inspection records must include information about system failures. So when your platform goes down mid-inspection, when a sync fails, when data is lost and re-entered, that has to be recorded, along with what you did about it immediately and what corrective action followed. That is an IT incident log wired into your clause 8.5 corrective action process. Very few bodies have built that link. Clause 7.5 does not stand alone. Clause 6.2.9 sits alongside it and is broader. It applies where you use technology in connection with inspections, and it names them: computers or automated equipment, data processing, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, remote inspection techniques. 3 obligations. The technology is suitable and adequate for use. Procedures are established and implemented for protecting the integrity and security of data. And equipment, including hardware and software, is maintained to ensure proper functioning. The note tells you how to demonstrate suitability, validation of calculations before use, periodic revalidation of related hardware and software, revalidation whenever changes are made, and software updates implemented as required. That note is effectively a validation plan. Use it as one. And if you use anything with artificial intelligence in your inspection process, this clause and 7.2.5F both apply to you today. And there is a third strand, clause 7.2.6, which is about validating the method rather than the software. It says you shall validate non-standard inspection methods and procedures, including when technology is used, and the validation shall be appropriate to the needs of the application. Note 1 lists what technology means here: digital developments, modeling, the use of artificial intelligence, remote techniques. Note 2 then hands you 3 validation techniques, and this is genuinely useful because it tells you what will be accepted. Systematic assessment of the factors influencing the result. Testing method robustness by varying controlled parameters, such as inspector or equipment, and comparison of results achieved with other validated methods. That second one is powerful and underused. Run the same inspection with different inspectors or different equipment and show the result holds. It is practical, it is cheap, and it produces exactly the kind of evidence an assessor understands. So how do you actually do this without turning it into a 6-month project? 5 steps. 1. Define what the system must do correctly. That is your intended use statement, and it is usually half a page. It must record these fields, perform these calculations, produce a report containing the items in clause 7.6.2. 2. Test it with known inputs where you already know the correct output. Include the edge cases, the values at the limits, and the ones that should be rejected. 3. Test the failure behavior, interrupt a sync, leave a mandatory field empty, enter text where a number belongs. What the system does when things go wrong is part of its suitability. 4. Record it properly. Inputs, expected outputs, actual outputs, the date, and who performed the test. That table is your validation record. 5. Keep it, because after every change you rerun the relevant subset, and that rerun is your change validation under 7.5.1. Build it once, and the ongoing cost is small. And finally, the file an assessor will ask for: 6 items, the intended use statement for each system and scope, the initial validation record showing what you tested and what happened, a change log with, for each change, what changed, why, who authorized it, what validation was performed, and when. Remember, the standard requires all of that before implementation, so the dates in that log will be read carefully. Access control records showing who can see and who can change what, which answers the unauthorized access part of 7.5.2a, backup evidence, and crucially a restore that you actually tested. An untested backup is a plan, not a safeguard. In the system failure log, link to your corrective actions, which is 7.5.2c. 6 documents, none of them large. Start with the intended use statement this week because everything else hangs off it. So, Validate what you built or modified. Keep off-the-shelf software in its lane. Control changes before they go live. Protect the data and log the failures. The documentation kit includes the procedures and records behind this, and the transition checklist bundle flags every new 2026 requirement, including this one. There are checklists for implementation, internal audit, and the accreditation audit, plus the full training course. Links in the description. Tell me in the comments what you use to record and report inspections and whether your supplier can give you validation evidence. I suspect a lot of you are about to find out the answer is no. Subscribe for the rest of the series,